Hey guys, Attorney Walter Knott. I wanted to catch up with you real quick and go through something that I think is really, really important. And none of the other channels are actually talking about this, and it is the mathematics, the actuarial work behind what is worth more, a fourth stimulus or benefit increases. And the truth is, a fourth stimulus is relatively cheap compared to benefit increases. And I want to go through that because a fourth stimulus could be anything, right? It could be $600, it could be $1,400, it could be $1,200. Could be $2,000. Could be any one of these things. But the bottom line is that that is a one-time payment. But let's look at the effect of essentially creating a benefit increase. Now, we're not going to be doing SSDIs with this video. We could do them a little bit later, but we're going to be using SSI because SSI, it's not a moving target. SSDI could be $0. It could go all the way up to essentially $3,000 plus dollars. SSI, we know the maximum is $790 $4, but the average person gets around, and this is the important part, the average person gets around $586. So we're going to be doing some mathematics to help you guys understand specifically what you should want to see from President Biden. Neither the benefit increases for disability benefits have been passed. Will they be passed this year? No. May they be passed next year? Maybe. Will the benefit increase, or will a fourth stimulus be passed this year? No. May be passed next year? Maybe. What we have, and you guys all know, is a unique situation where the politicians are going to be trying to buy, to some degree, your vote going into the 2022 election. Because if President Biden loses the House or the Senate, he becomes a lame duck. If he loses both the House and the Senate, he becomes impeached. So 2022 defines 2024 definitively. So we might actually be seeing some moving and shaking in this 2022 year. Let's go through it real quick. All right, let's assume that the next fourth stimulus would be $1,000. Let's be fair about it. It could be $600. It could be $1,400, but let's just assume it's $1,000. Now let's take the SSI people. So we know the SSI people, they're getting around, on average, $586 per month. We know that the max is $794. We know that in certain states, with all the different state supplements and options that you can get increasing it, it goes way up from there. But that's because in certain states, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, etc., these states, it's extremely expensive to live. So, the bottom line is the standard of living may be higher in a blue state because of essentially the higher, whatever. But the problem is it costs more to live in that state. Here's the funny thing. If you take a moment and think about it, the red states, your classics, your Alabamas, or your Texas, your Florida, different states have different amounts that it costs to live there. And what's happening is we're having a class division, right? You're having the people who are working and earning and being able to live in the nicer version of the blue state, the nicer version of the Florida state. And I know some of you will go, oh, there's no nicer state than any other state. Come on. Obviously there are. Okay, Disney World and Disneyland are built in very nice areas. Okay, it's the way it is. They would look in the heart of some godforsaken field in the middle of nowhere. They're not going to build a Disney World. They're just not. So, bottom line is this: we're seeing a separation of class. We're seeing some individuals that are being capable of living in these nicer red states or these nicer blue states, and then you have these other individuals that are not able to afford the price changes. But you have to throw in what's coming up with all the different things financially, which is we know that the SSI Restoration Act has been around for a very long time. We know that if they increased it to 100% the poverty rate, we're looking at $1,073 per month. Okay, not 586, not 794, but 1,073, and that'll even go higher when it comes to next year. That means around weekly you get around $248. That means annually you're getting around $12,880. GXY, howdy. Thank you. I appreciate it. GXY donated, $5. Make sure you catch up with me later. And here's the big thing, guys, that I want to show you. And I want to thank GXY. He's been helping my channel and actually very much so helping me and supporting me through a lot of this stuff, which is just incredible. And I really appreciate that. Garden, thank you as well. You've been with me for a very, very long time. I want to talk about something that's incredibly important here. If you do the math of $1,000, right? That's fine, right? You split up 1,000. So we take $1,000. There it is. We divide it by 12. That totals $83.33 a month. That's what we're looking at, the monthly, right? $83.33. Now, if we look at essentially $568 That's per month. We're going to multiply that by 12. That totals $6,816 per year. Let's go back to that, whatchamacallit? Sorry, it's 586. 586. 586. Let's do the math real quick on that. 586 times 12. That totals 7,032. All right. So that's what the average SSI person is getting. Now, the between essentially 586, so let's take our 1073, right? So if we pass this, put the SSI people at 100% the poverty rate, we took 1073, we subtracted that from 586, what do we end up with? Oh, sorry, hold on. I'm trying to click the calculator in here. Minus 586, that totals, boom, $487 per month. Per month. So you had like a little bit over 80, right, in a fourth stimulus, which is worth very little compared to passing the SSI Restoration Act, which gives you essentially $487 more per month, right? So if we subtract like $83 from that, we get, oh, sorry, hold on. Oh, no, I did it wrong. Hold on. 1073 minus 586 equals that minus $83 equals $404. That's the difference. $404 per month extra is what you would be getting if the SSI Restoration Act passed. Shari Smith, I really appreciate it. Thank you for donating $4.99. I really, really appreciate it. That's awesome. Little cute number one. Awesome. Very cool. So here's the thing that I'm starting to realize about this. They ironically have a cheap out with most people. If they were to pass, and it's not in the cards right now, a fourth stimulus, it's the cheap way. It's the cheap dinner. It's the politicians, specifically in this instance, the Democrats, buying the cheap date option for the American people. You don't want the cheap date. You want to consistently go to a better restaurant. You want to consistently eat better food. And that is the Social Security 2100 Act plus the SSI Restoration Act, which increases the benefits significantly. Now, here's the problem with this whole thing. It's not just funding for 1 year. It's continuous funding. Now, what they usually do with Congress, Patty Allen, thank you, $4.99. I really appreciate it. That's excellent. It's very, very good. Now, what they do is Congress will usually block out a 10-year period. A 10-year period. And what does that mean? It means that over a 10-year period, they'll put aside the funding that's supposed to pay for these increases for people on SSI, people on SSDI, people who are retired, etc. But what's interesting about that is we have a problem. And the problem is that Congress has to figure out how to superfund our retirement system because it's not making enough money right now. So we need more workers. We basically need to put more money of what they're earning over to the retirement, disability, etc. systems. But the kicker is we haven't really had a true audit of the federal government, which means that there's a lot of money going to things that we as Americans would not be happy with that could easily pay for our retirement. Now, what do you think is going to happen when the retirement benefits get reduced from their 100% that they're supposed to pay out in 10 years? A lot of people assume that the politicians will automatically be able to fix this, right? Because America always does. That's how it works. But there's a problem with this logic. Let me tell you what the logic problem is. That's assuming America is doing really well 10 years from now, or realistically 8 or 9 years from now, like the moments before we run out of money. So if that's true, then America may not be doing well 8 to 10 years from now. There's a problem because that means the money's been spent and we don't have a means, a way, whatever, to go ahead and increase how much we're actually putting into these super trust funds, the OASDI. So we got a problem. Some of you would sit back and say, well, the politicians will have to figure it out. If they can't figure it out, we'll just have to do with less. Well, let me ask you this. The universal currency throughout the United States and the rest of the world tends to be, for business purposes, the U.S. dollar. And if the U.S. dollar continues to lose its status through whatever, it could be China having their tender be used. It could be, a digital currency where the U.S. dollar, loses its ability to keep up. I don't know if you guys know this, but putting the U.S. dollar on basically a digital currency, the Fed coin, that's a very risky maneuver. That's why a lot of politicians, a lot of financial people are very worried about it. Let me tell you why. FedCoin is based on the idea of it, essentially making honest, people out of these politicians, knowing where the money goes, knowing what happens to it, and being able to track it and digitize it and more easily do calculations based on it. Actuarials love it. Accountants all for it, right? Usually, unless they know the problem that comes from it. The big problem is that America is known for taking what's called owner's draw. That's where they'll go to the magical, it never runs out of money tree bank. The US Treasury is a big fan of that. And they take out more money. And they take out more money in the way of creating more money and creating more money. The problem inherent with this is that when we start to have this Fed coin come out, we're going to expect as Americans the ability to study it. Where are the Excel sheets on it? It's going to be harder for them to just keep making money and printing money and pushing money that wasn't in existence to begin with to fix the problems that they want to fix. So there's an issue here. If we create a currency that is a digital currency, there's, it's like holding the American government more to the standard of the American people. There's a problem there because the American people are supposed to be, based on how the government handles things, essentially held to, you got to pay your taxes, you got to pay this amount, you got to pay this percentage, you got to do this stuff. If the American people knew where all their money was going, that's the baseline thing to fix to be able to afford these increases. Do we charge the American people more? Many of you don't know this, but there was a time in America where there were no taxes. And then they just kept adding more taxes, more types of taxes. Then they started to increase those taxes. It's only going to be a penny more. It's only going to be 5 cents more on the dollar. It's only going to be a this, only going to be a that. People keep talking about the brink point, on the blade point, right on the edge of it. But what's interesting is that none of these politicians are talking about the American people and how they are on the tip of the blade, how they're struggling to survive, how the money they make is not enough to go ahead and get them through things. And it's a form of strangulation when it comes to basically people wanting to work more. Now, why is it important that people want to work more? Well, if they work more, they usually make more. And if they make more, they pay more taxes because there's more dollars that they earned and more of that tax money goes to that. So we've got a problem. The problem is we keep taxing people more on the same amount of dollars that they get from, their payroll company. So if they're getting, $50,000 this year and then a certain amount of taxes. So let's say, okay, let's say 20, let's just do easy numbers. So let's say we got $50,000. We multiply that by 0.20. That equals $10,000 that goes to federal taxes. That's not perfect, but we're just going to use easy numbers. Now we increase that. All of a sudden, instead of that person going home with $40,000, the next year they increase the taxes. So now they're going home with, let's say $39,000 and $39,800. And then every year they keep increasing it and increasing the taxes on the people. And people are less likely to want to work more because to them, they're doing the same amount of work, but they're getting less money. Well, welcome to hyperinflation, the land we are about to go into, the place we dare not go, but we are there. If you guys thought the 2008 crisis was bad, it was a depression, it was bad, it's not as bad as this hyperinflation that's coming. And there's a reason why. The hyperinflation is causal based on not just a housing market. It's based on lack of the country being in a war. It's based on our international currency no longer being used by everybody else. It's based on major competing interests like China, Russia, Australia, India. A lot of you guys don't realize, but everybody's so used to saying America, the greatest country in the world. They have reports now that GDP is better coming out of China than America. which means that America, sitting atop its great mountain, right? Like a Harley or a Rolls Royce or whatever, sitting atop its great mountain, all of a sudden it's got competition, and the competition is going to beat it. And you know what happens when there's competition? Well, everybody's got to lower the prices to compete. Can America lower its prices? Well, we're coming out of a pandemic. So the problem we're having is this transition. Okay, but it's only transitory. Here's the kicker. What does 5 years from now look like? What does 10 years from now look like? Do we have essentially more warehouses with people working in them? Think about this. When you see warehouses online, when you see them in trailers on TV, they're usually distribution warehouses. They're not production warehouses where they're creating an item. They're usually receiving, shipping. They're not usually we're making an item. You have to go online and like, how do they make this item? And look at those shows to actually see those types of warehouses. But there's a problem in America. Most of those warehouses no longer exist. So we're a services corporation as America goes, right? Yes, Gordon, exactly. There's going to be more homeless. So what's happening is this. The presidents that are going into this whole thing know, and Gordon, you got that, you nailed it, that there's going to be more individuals who can't get service jobs and can't get manufacturing jobs because the service jobs are going to become very highly fought after. And these warehouse jobs, well, there's not going to be as many of them. So what's happening is we've got a problem because now people aren't going to be able to find these jobs. You know, look at these other countries. Look at Ukraine. Look at Austria. Look at Taiwan. There's a lack of jobs available because other countries aren't buying a lot of their stuff. Now, a lot of people think, well, that country can just have their own people buy it. If they're large enough, yeah. But is America even large enough? So we've got a problem here. The problem is the American presidents know that the money isn't going to be there going forward. That's not good. The American presidents know that they got to somehow keep the American people happy. Because if the American people are unhappy, like I said before, 2022 rolls around, you've either got a loss of the Senate, which is almost certain at this point based on how things are going. I think the House will still remain Democrat. And then the worst case scenario for the Democrats, best case scenario for the Republicans would be a loss of the House and the Senate for the Democrats. I don't think that's going to happen. And that would mean impeachment of Biden. If the Democrats keep both the House and the Senate, then will the Democrats be inspired to help the American people? Are we seeing that now? Are we seeing much of that right now? I've talked many times about the Social Security 2100 Act, the Supplemental Security Income Restoration Act. There's no stomach, as they keep putting it, which is interesting. It's interesting. Because for a politician to have a stomach for something, it appears to me, based on from what I'm seeing, that they have to essentially reap some benefit from, let's call it like it is, right? The people actually getting helped. That means that they've got to know that this is going to make them look good and get them voted back in. Otherwise, they don't care. It's not on the platform. They don't have a stomach for it. So, Alex, hopefully in 5 years, things will start to get better. What are the things that could make America truly better? And now we're answering the whole Build Back Better scenario. Very simply put, we have to do the following. We need to keep drugs out of this country. The fewer the drugs coming into this country, the more likely we have long-term workers. We have more young generations, middle-aged generations, working hard consistently and building careers. When people are building careers, they are building capital industry, and the GDP goes way up. That's the number one thing. We got to keep drugs out. Number two thing, we have to figure out basically how to get legal and illegal immigrants into this country and working hard. I don't care if they're, one of these individuals who is, been in the country and then out of the country. So many people come to this country illegally and then they leave, and then they got to come back. My question is, are they going to follow the laws and work hard and thereby increase our GDP? Why? Because once again, in order for the disabled and the retired to continue to receive the maximum amount of benefits that they are right now, we need more workers. What happens next? Well, we have to then look at where is the technology going when it comes to healthcare. And this is an idea that will probably get me murdered, but I will say this, it's important. We have to go ahead and look at these big pharma companies. And we have to some degree, go ahead. And I know this is going to be a horrible thing to say on YouTube. I get that. I understand that. But we have to go ahead and turn them into some sort of utility-based company. Kind of like the water company, kind of like the, the gas company, kind of like the, electricity company, whatever. We have to do that because our human health should not be so abhorrently, ridiculously, just terribly used as a money-making machine. Do you realize how many cures have come out that are not being used in this country, but are in Israel? Because we have big pharma in this country limiting the types of cures we get instead for the choice of continuous medication upkeep. It is cheaper to keep somebody alive and paying into the big pharma system for buying medication in the sense of they get to go ahead and make more money. And in the long term, they get to go ahead and pass this wonderful person on to say, look at what we did for this great person. But it's, it's not cheaper. It's more expensive. But as a result, the government has to pay for that. The government, look at the Alzheimer's drug, is now having a difficult time figuring out how they're going to pay for that. So what do? Do we force them to release information? Do we create nonprofits that look at these different big pharma companies to go ahead and say, you must do this, you must do that. When are you going to do it? What do? How do we control the situation so that they have to release cures to things that ail human beings? If we were to think about it, the human health condition is one of our inalienable rights to get better. Right? To stay healthy. That's one of the things we want to do. If we get sick, we want there to be options. Right? Keeping us alive. If it wasn't one of these basic rights, then, murder wouldn't be illegal. Right? Murdering somebody, that would essentially be something where that would be okay. But obviously we know murdering somebody is like a base fundamental for being wrong. But can you guys tell me the vast difference? Like, this is on one side of the planet. This is on the other side of the planet. Can you tell me the vast difference between essentially somebody murdering somebody and essentially a big pharma medical company having a cure for a terminal disease and not giving that to a person and instead giving them medication that will keep them alive, but in a mediocre condition? What's different there? You've taken a life and you've altered it. One has completely ended it. One has made that person exist on a highly, highly reduced level of capacity to live. Sure, we have medicines that are amazing, but the real truth of it is we only see them come out as new innovations when you have medical corporations competing for release. So the thing I want to point out here, guys, is that we have to go ahead and get the health of Americans better. We all know that when you get up into the 90s, you reach 100, you're older. Americans and all humans, we die at some point from age. We know that. But the problem is that it is profitable to essentially have human suffering. That's crazy. That's amazing. Who would have thought human suffering would have been one of the most profitable things on earth? Oh, but it is, right? Why do we have wars nowadays? Massive spending, killing people with weapons. Why do we have big farm? Well, they make medications. How many cures have come out over the past 15 to 20 years? So America has that problem. Now let me talk to you about the other problem America has. America has an issue with education. America is not teaching its kids, America is not teaching its future generations how to go ahead and make industry. I fell straight into that terrible, terrible hole myself. I can tell you a lot of theory that is useless. I have a master's in business, a doctorate in law. I have other things that are considered postdoctorate based work. But I'll tell you this, how to go ahead and make money. This is something we don't teach people. And you know what the problem with that is? That's a form of enslavement. It is a slavery tendency. And here's why. If you essentially have most people not knowing how to make money, you can control them as employees. And if you can control them as employees, then you have a slave workforce. Tell them to get extra educated, but let's not pay them too much, because if they get to that level, they might go ahead and use that money in a way that would be against them being in a form of enslavement. Why do we have spaceships going into space that are private, that are being used by the governments? It's because the guy made a lot of money and he wanted to make more money and he wanted to go into space. Innovation does not happen by the United States government. It never has. A government is not part of innovation. Corporations competing against each other are part of innovation. The only thing that moves a government a little bit faster towards something in the future is when it has to compete against another government entity. So is the American government going to have to do more with less because China is now taking its spot? Maybe. So the point I'd like to point out to you is this. We have these major things that have to be changed, but none of them are going to be changed, unfortunately, based on voting. And here's why. So as you guys know, there is a system to voting that we have, right? And the problem is that people believe that they can change elections. Let's go through how the game works, okay? Elections are based on how many votes come in. And then people, either have their vote count directly or they have a representative that goes ahead and votes on their behalf, okay? And then basically, get your votes in, the person becomes who they're supposed to be, and then all of a sudden, some of them do what they're supposed to do, and then some don't. Well, the way the game works is this. They know specifically ahead of time which groups are going to vote which way based on certain numbers. And what's crazy about that is that they've got it down to such a science that voting is more clear and more direct than something that they've seen a zillion times over and over every single day, such as the stock market. Now, we all know that when it comes to the stock market, nobody is an expert. You can research companies, you can set up, floor meetings where you go in and you watch them produce an item or ship an item or do something at a meeting. You can do all that stuff to figure out what the company may be doing in the future, but still nobody has mastered the stock system unless they're cheating, right? Because the stock system, it's like these whole, Bitcoin and, all these digital currencies. Some people made a lot of money, but nobody's a true master because nobody knows consistently how it's going to come out. Voting, they do. Let's go through some of this stuff real quick. This is from debt.org, Economic Demographics of Democrats. The U.S. economy has been on the forefront of Americans' minds for several years, and the state of the economy played a pivotal role in the 2012 election season. The major parties tackled economic issues from different perspectives, highlighting the divergence between Democrats and Republicans. But who are the people who actually vote Democrat? Where do they live? What do they look like? And more importantly, what do their finances look like? This was made on October 25th, 2021 by Bill Fay, debt.org. Generally, Democrats live closer to a coast than not, tend to have more women in their groups than Republicans, are much more likely to be gay or lesbian, have more of an attachment to organized labor, are slightly younger than Republicans, are increasingly less religious. A demographic breakdown of the economics of Democrats includes location, marriage status, income, age, education, race. And remember, this isn't just about Democrats. Whatever this is about for the Democrats in that percentage, the other percentage is for the most part Republicans because it's a two-party system. You only need to study one to know what the other one's doing. Location. The strongest Democratic areas of the country are along the East and West Coast, whereas Republicans tend to be more concentrated in the South and Midwest. Within each state, trends are fairly consistent. And I'm doing this, guys, because I want you to understand more of why we're doing this whole, vote to protect the disabled.org. I started working on that stuff. I worked on it for about 45 minutes. I have to catch up with the person who's helping me build the website because I haven't talked to her in like 2 weeks. I've been just so busy with the law firm. But I need you guys to understand the high level of manipulation that occurs from all of this voting stuff. If you saw people creating, massive commercials like they do for this whole voting stuff, like a presidential election, like all these massive things. If you saw them doing that for stocks, everything would cheapen the whole voting system. Think about that. This person's amazing. This person's terrible. If they did that for stocks, it would cheapen the whole system for, are you voting for this politician or that politician? Because you would more easily see how these corporations manipulate people. But they save a lot of that and their tactics specifically for the political realm because A, there's money there, and B, let's call it is at the end of the day, they want their politicians to seem like honest, wonderful, and gentle people. Democrats dominate the more populated urban centers while suburbs lean Republican. The rural areas are almost exclusively Republican. This trend is nearly universal, even in deep red states like Texas and dark blue states like Massachusetts. If an area has more than 500,000 people, it will go Democrat about 60% of the time. The political balance is even in areas with 50,000 to 500,000 people, and then turns decidedly in the Republicans' favor at the population levels below 50,000 people. So when you have people in farm towns, it's always Republican because they have to earn their money from the land. They're doing the small town thing. They're seeing their physical actions equate to money. Whereas in a lot of these, cities and things like that, you're an employee. You're part of the system, little cog rolling around. Gender and marital status. The Democratic Party has a significant advantage with women. That's true. When I talk to women about which way they like to vote and things like that, it's almost always, Democrat. And there's a reason why, and it's a very good reason. 37% of women affiliate with the Democratic Party, giving them a sizable advantage over the 24% who identify as Republicans. Marriage tends to have a significant impact on how women vote. Unmarried women vote Democrat about 62% of the time, while married women tend to be evenly split between the parties. I don't know why that is. I've never been married. Maybe you guys can explain that one to me. Exactly 27% of men affiliate with each party, with 43% declaring themselves independent. Gays, lesbians, and bisexuals support Democratic candidates around 70% of the time. What's the truth here? As factions, as groups, as categories of people were created, the Democrats were far superior at getting those votes. The Black Caucus, gay, lesbian, bisexual, the disabled. So many disabled people say automatically I'm voting this way because the Democrats are far better at addressing that they want to do certain things for that particular group by increasing their rights, their benefits, etc. I'm not saying they actually did. That's what if they actually do those things is a totally different thing. And okay, so let's keep rolling through this thing. Income. An individual's likelihood of being a Democrat decreases with every additional dollar he or she earns. Let me read that again. This is super duper important. An individual's likelihood of being a Democrat decreases with every additional dollar he or she earns. You earn more money, right? The more you know how to earn. So if you know the tricks to earn money, you won't be a Democrat, right? These people online that are, Bitcoin zillionaires and real estate zillionaires, almost none of them are truly Democrats. Some of them may say Democrat-based things, but they're not liberal because they know they're trying to keep every dollar and opportunity they have. And they hand out the little things because that gets them YouTube and money, and then they continue forward. Let's keep reading. Democrats have a huge advantage, 63% with voters earning less than $15,000 per year. This is similar to the idea of Christianity. Christianity sent out people into poor areas to convert individuals by feeding them, giving them water, giving them clothing, giving them prayers and hopes. Once again, the Democrats are masters at going out and finding particular groups that can be converted to a cause. It's genius. The Republicans are terrible at it. Look, how far behind are the Republicans when it comes to technology and social media? I mean, they caught up a little bit with the last couple of elections, but they're way, way behind. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting. This advantage carries forward for individuals earning up to $50,000 per year, and then turns in Republicans' favor with just 36% of individuals earning more than $200,000 per year supporting Democrats. Meaning, very simply put, the more money you make, the more likely you are to be essentially Republican. But then when you get to the point where you're in so much money that it doesn't matter which way the vote goes, and you want to look good to people about social benefits, then you switch back to Democrat, because Democrat offers at least the idea of voting to make things better for categories of people. Then we get into the problem of, okay, are the Republicans or Democrats really passing these things for these categories of people? No. You know, crumbs, the whole lot of them. They keep distributing crumbs. All right, let's keep rolling here. Interestingly, the median household income in the United States is $49,777, right near the point where the Democratic advantage disappears and the Republicans take over. About half of Democrats express satisfaction with their personal financial situation, compared with 61% of Republicans and 52% of independents. Let's read that again. That's important. About half of Democrats express satisfaction with their personal financial situation. So half of them are happy. I earn enough. Money's not, the object of life. I'm happy. Compared with 61% of Republicans. So 61% of Republicans have satisfaction with their finances. I would have thought that would have been inaccurate. I would have thought the Republicans would have for sure had, 5% are satisfied and the other 95% are not satisfied. I would have expected that to be like, work hard, earn more. I would have thought that, but I'm wrong. 52% of independents, they're right in the middle. That's why they're independents to begin with. Ultra wealthy. While Democrats lose support as income increases, there seems to be a tipping point where the ultra wealthy begin leaning Democrat. The most famous example would be the entertainment industry, where star-studded events have become a significant part of Democratic culture. Once again, they carved out a group. They knew who had the money, right? They carved out a culture there. It's just like cigarettes or, driving this cool car in this cool movie, whatever. They carved out a culture and they took it. It's brilliant. Democrats are brilliant when it comes to advertising. I got to tell you, Republicans have a lot to learn from them. The most famous example would be the entertainment industry, but this phenomenon is not limited to Hollywood. A review of the 20 richest Americans, as listed by Forbes magazine, found that 60% affiliate with the Democratic Party, including the top 3 individuals, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Larry Ellison. Among the richest families, the Democratic advantage rises even higher to 75%. Interesting. Yeah, and Rob Lee, I'll answer those questions a little bit after this. I'm almost finished up. So what I need you to understand is that they're masters at knowing who's going to vote which way. They're masters. Labor. Democrats support labor unions in much higher numbers than Republicans. 2/3 of Americans overall agree with the statement that labor unions are necessary to protect the working person. That's important. 2/3 of Americans like labor unions. In all, 82% of Democrats believe this, compared with just 43% of Republicans. That's fair. That makes sense to me. Education. There are 2 distinct levels of education among Democrats. Those without a high school diploma and those with postgraduate degrees. That's important. Think about that. They know that people without an education are easy to manipulate because they haven't experienced enough out there, right? Republicans should go after them. Democrats should go after them. They should carve out their spot. I think a lot of Republicans have. The less educated farming community, the Aggie community, where they haven't gotten, certain degrees, I think the Republicans went after that. I think the Democrats went after the inner cities. I think that's a fair assumption. Let's keep reading. They also have postgraduate degree people. So the college graduates are mostly in the Republican terrain. But the before high school, or before, not completing high school, and the postgraduate work, Democrats. So the middle people, the middle class people of education are Republicans. That's interesting. Recent trends have seen an erosion of support in the Republican advantage among college graduates, but they still receive a slim majority of the vote in this category. We know why, and that's because schools have become more indoctrinated towards the idea of pushing a particular agenda. It is what it is. You guys get to decide whether that's right or wrong. I don't really care. It's up to you. You decide. Age. Democrats tend to be slightly younger than Republicans. We all know this. This has been true forever. Okay? With an average age of 47 compared with 50. Recent trends have shown large growth in Democratic support among the younger generation, which is a turnaround from the young conservative movement of the 1980s. In 2000, 48% of young voters went Democrat. In 2008, the number climbed to 66%. The young voting bloc, 46 million strong, will increase to 90 million in 2020. Their increasing Democrat leaning may be caused by increasing diversity or be an anti-establishment reaction. We all know when you're young, it's all about the heart. And when you're older, it's all about your investments, your portfolio. How do you continue to have the nice life? Many of you guys think I have a nice life. I don't. I don't because I have to work harder than anybody else. I've worked more hours than a 70-year-old that gets retirement at this point. And this is because I have horrible student loans, which were caused by white politicians that have been in politics for way too long. And they voted this way because they didn't know how to deal with the race problem when it came to academia and universities. And that, as a result, these white old male politicians punished me. Race, very important. They have this all figured out. Democrats have a tremendous amount of diversity in their ranks, especially when compared with the 87% white Republican Party. The most loyal bloc of Democrat supporters are African Americans. We saw that with the whole Biden fiasco where he said, if you're not black, yada, yada. With women supporting Democrats a staggering 90% of the time, and men slightly less. This support is ingrained in the culture and cuts across age, income, and regional divisions. What they're saying is race above money, race above anything else is a deciding factor for how they're going to vote. You know what's funny is the only reason racism is still as strong as it is today is because of our politics. You ever travel from state to state and notice that race is viewed differently? You ever notice that racists that we know, that person's a little racist, when they're looking at a kid of a different color, a young kid, like a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, whatever, they're not really racist towards that little kid because for some reason that little kid is in competition even though they're a different race. You ever know that little kids of different race don't really have racism? It's something that's taught. They have to learn that. It's sad because race division only exists at this point because of politics. Every generation we have gets farther away from racism. So they got to sell it, though, because if they don't sell race division, they're not going to get the votes that they want in the manner in which they want them. So it's a problem. This support is ingrained in the culture and cuts across age, income, and regional division. This support has been longstanding for many decades, but has increased in intensity since Democrats chose Barack Obama as the party standard bearer. We only have racial division at this point in this country at the degree that we do because of politics. And it's because they need to know which way people are going to vote. If you took out racism from America, it would change the entire voting system. It would. Hispanics, the fastest growing ethnic group. That's because they essentially have a lot of kids. There's a lot of people moving up from Mexico, South America, etc. GXY, thank you. I appreciate you doing it again. Thank you. $5. I appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. This is very helpful. So here's the thing. Hispanics, fastest growing ethnic group in the United States, also tend to support Democrats, voting for them 60 to 70% of the time. Unlike African Americans, support of Hispanic voters' support is more likely to be affected by income or location than by race. What does that tell you? It tells you, once again, that the most political divide, the most racial tension that we get is between blacks and whites purely for voting. That's it. That's why racism exists at this point. It's political vote chasing. That's it. It's hard to find people that really love racism or really into racism. It's just not a thing like it used to be. And part of that reason is too, and I tell you, the reason I see racism is so antiquated and wrong is that, all right, look, you have two dogs that are born from a mom dog, right? One gets given to a white family, one gets given to a black family. Both families love that dog. Can you tell me, of the two happy dogs, which dog you're going to hate more? Can you tell me which family you want to hate more? Well, you're not going to hate either because they took care of a dog that needed to be taken care of. It doesn't make sense to be racist anymore. We need as many human beings as we can to take care of these beautiful, beautiful animals that are a part of this earth. So my point to you is we only have racial tension as a result of political party games. And the sad thing is this. If we got rid of this racial tension, we would be focused on basically the economy and those who are unable to work. The two most mega groups that are unable to work are our elderly and our disabled. Here's the problem that we face, guys. Racism is slowly disappearing, but unfortunately, it's disappearing at a slow rate because of politics. Everybody wants, the prior administration to be a racist group that's horrible. Everybody wants the current administration to be a perfect angel. We both know that there's a lot of problems there with that assessment. Deb Carter, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate the $5 donation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Garden, you're amazing. You've been with me from like day one. You were with me when I had like 100 subscribers, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it was. Yeah, this channel is actually like 8 years old. Religion. Democrats are becoming increasingly less religious. Between 1987 and the late 1990s, the Republicans and Democrats polled as equally religious. Since then, Democrats have seen a significant decrease in their level of religious participation, while Republican numbers have remained consistent. The one major religious bloc of voters that Democrats can still rely on is the Jewish community, from which they receive 80% of the votes. That, I will tell you, is changing. And as a person that's Jewish, as a Jewish mom, as a person who also believes in the Christian faith as a continuation of the Jewish readings and basic biblical texts in total, if you take the very beginning and continue the story, as somebody who is a believer, I can tell you this. A lot of the Jewish people are not happy at the moment because they're seeing financially people that are suffering, not getting taken care of with the money that they've donated. I see a lot of anger there. And then throw the whole Israel thing on top of it, and you can see why. I don't think the Democrats view religion as important as race, sexual orientation, or basically the school thing, what they're going to be coming up with. If you're in college, how can we reach students for convincing them to vote a particular way? I think Democrats are brilliant when it comes to the whole voting thing. I really do. I think they're just mind-blowingly brilliant with it. Philip Price, I appreciate. Thank you. Philip Price donated $9.99, and I appreciate it. I really, really, really do, good sir. I was saying, so Kim Kerner, was the hardest Hanukkah in my life, but I had my family all vaccinated. That's amazing. That's actually amazing. Shirley Benoit, how do I pronounce your last name? Benoit? And I see you all the time making comments too, and they're always amazing comments. Thank you so much for donating $9.99. I really, really appreciate it. So the thing I want to point out to you guys is that religion, those who are Christians, those who are Jewish, those who are Muslim, they're not as important to these parties for votes anymore. It's interesting. Social welfare. This is the most important one that we're going to read because of the whole connection to those who are on disability benefits, those who are retired. Social welfare. One of the clearest policy differences between the parties is the view on government assistance programs and social safety nets. This is crucial. This is so important. There is a 35-point difference between Democrats and Republicans, with Democrats far more likely to support government assistance programs. So Democrats have always supported significantly government assistance programs. Republicans tend to give more to charity. Wait a minute, what? Wait a minute. So you have one group that supports government spending on government programs and one group that supports charity spending, nonprofits, spending on individual people, etc., maybe religious institutions, etc. Government-based, individual-based, or private-based. Democrat, Republican. So Republicans tend to give more charity, while Democrats support publicly funded assistance programs. This could also be explained in part by Democrats' lack of religious devotion, as a large percentage of Republican charitable donations support religious programs and institutions. I think that's true, but if we look at the Muslim religion in America, Muslims tend to be heavy Democrat, and with most Muslim-based groups, they do a donation, just like the Christians, where a certain amount off the top automatically goes to their particular religious entity. So you've got this, how much are Christians sending over to their religion? How much are Muslims sending over to the religion? It's interesting. It's really interesting. But once again, we go back to this other thing of, well, why is this happening? Why do they have us at such an amazing degree mastered with who we're going to vote for? I want to provide you guys with something here. Yeah, there's no stimulus. There's no stimulus coming. I'm sorry, guys. I hate to break it to you. There's no stimulus. There's no SSI increase. There's no SSDI increase. Just a 5.9 COLA increase. For those of you guys who always put into the comments, isn't it amazing how we're getting a 5.9 increase? That's a really big boost. It's actually not. Any increase in COLA means, that's significant, means vast devaluation of the US dollar, which means that you're not actually getting more money. It seems like you're getting more money because, boop, you just got more in your account as a number. But the cost of the things that you normally, buy went like this, boop. So now you're stuck with essentially this, and the cost of things that normally you would buy are this. So you actually usually with these COLA increases lose money, which is why everybody's so freaking poor that's on disability benefits and retirement, which is why so many people are miserable because they need to pass things like the SSI Restoration Act to at least make it so that people can survive. I want to make something very clear to you. I hate racism, but I see it all the time. I see it in different states. When I travel up north to go to New Jersey to go ahead and do the farm stuff, when I travel beyond that to go to Maine, in every state I stop in, I see it in a different way. And you know what is the main cause of it? It is political differences and cultural expectations, right? White people expect this from certain people. Black people expect this from certain people. The cultures are different. Oh, these people are perfectionists. Oh, these people, they have this thing where, only they can do this and nobody else can do that. The truth is, guys, at the end of the day, what we're all going to have to realize is that we're tools. Some of us are hammers, some of us are pliers, some of us are nails, we're all tools to these politicians. If we start looking at these politicians more like game hosts, more like, an orchestra that has a conductor up at the, at the front, and he's saying how this is going to be going and what we should be. If we start looking at them like that, we start to see the great joke that they are. We get punished because we vote based off of categories that shouldn't matter. Think about that. We vote because instead of caring for other Americans, we're more cared about what makes us unique, what makes us our special thing, what we want. Can any of you tell me why Republicans now, walk me through this. Republicans in the chat, you help me out here. Republicans in the chat, do any of you care if gay people get married anymore? Do any of you care? I know you cared back in the day, but do any of you care with it now? Anybody? Democrats, with all of the free knowledge on YouTube of how to make more money, with all of the free knowledge of how to make more money, right? Do you care less about how to make more money now? Or do you care more about it? Bet you care more about it. That's because you're having less than you had because taxes increased and the money didn't go to the people that you were pushing to support. It's always the same thing. People want to live a good life. They're afraid of being restricted, so they get fearful. You have some people who are more fearful of losing their rights than other people. But I assure you all, you're all losing rights. Republicans damn the Democrats for voting away their rights. And sometimes that's true. And Democrats damn the Republicans for always going forward and slowing down the progress of the American, government and people. I will say this. If we, as a people, started to say, now what? A little bit more, kind of like a kid, we would actually get much farther. I had a talk recently with a staunch Republican. And as you guys know, I'm kind of in the middle. I lean left on some things, lean right on some things, because I'm very unfair to both parties. I see, Pope Biden and Pope Trump. But I want to make something very clear here. I sat there and she was telling me we need American families to go back to having dinners like they had. And I sat there and said, well, that's never going to happen. Well, how isn't that going to happen? That's never going to happen. Kids have this now. This replaced dinner. Did it not? Am I wrong? We're never going back to everybody sitting around an oak table, except for Thanksgiving and things like that. Well, if we can't have that, then how do they learn from their elders? Well, that's a good point. Why are elders not teaching these kids what to do? Did you think about that? Did you think about how there were a lot of people out there that know how to do stuff, but they're not willing to teach other people? Happens in the legal industry all the time. I'll tell you an example of it. What happens is an attorney will teach a young attorney how to do stuff. That young attorney will go out and start their own practice. And then poof, you end up with a Walter who ends up sharing all the secrets with you guys. That's terrible. How could that happen? This is terrible. That actually did happen. I worked for a bunch of older attorneys, went on and did my own firm, took what they did, made it, in my opinion, better. And as a result of that, the firm is doing well. If we really look at this, there's a lot of land in America. And what we need to do is get people invested in America. We need to get people invested in Americans. Remember when Americans first came here and they were investing into land by the government giving them land? The government was not taxing them ridiculously. They wanted the great company of America to grow. That's when America was for Americans to be successful so that Americans could lift up America. We don't live in that anymore. We don't. We live in social justice for certain groups only when it. The classic example of that is, my body, my rules. My house, my rules. Well, how many of those flew out the window? I want to just say one important thing, and then I'll answer whatever questions you want. That's the whole purpose of this Thursday thing, and I'm sorry I took up so much time. I just have been really bothered by what I've been learning about how the system works. I want you to, Northern Mariana Islands. Oh, I want to go there. Maggie Palacios, send me pictures. I'm a water person. I like boats. I like islands. I love going to them. I don't get to go to them very often. And I still have to figure out how to get shot of the light boating. He hates it. He's miserable the entire time. And another thing, too, if you have a chubby dog and you want to go ahead and take away the bowl a little bit, and then she puts her paw on your hand, and then she digs her nails in as you try to pull the bowl away. But me growing up on a country farm, I was like, well, I'm taking the bowl anyways. Yeah. And it was to actually give her more cream cheese because I didn't give her a fair amount for her. Anyways, it's just, My point to you guys is this. If we want Americans to succeed, we have to start looking at Americans a different way. Many of you look at Americans as, well, they're a white American or a black American or an Indian American or a Native American American or an Asian American. Well, they're that culture and they're that culture. And those people are like that. And these people are like this. And that, I don't know if I like that, but I like that. Racial differences, cultural differences. Can you guys tell me the difference between two people living in America? Can you? Oh, this person has this type of work and is into this. Oh, because, Asians like math and, black people like, sports and da 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 da. Let's assume that biases exist, because they do. No person is humanly the same genetically. We're all different. That's the cool thing about it. We're all like, imagine how crap it would be if everybody was just Karen and John. That would be crap. You wouldn't want that. Trust me, you wouldn't want that. They even make fun of it in Guardians of the Galaxy. That they make fun of that literal existence. What you have to start realizing is that your cultural differences are not something that should be so dividing. They should be something that you use in benefit to create more industry in America. Am I wrong? What if all of you were running a business? What if all of you were making significantly more money? Did your race make a huge difference in it? Or you might have culturally seen something to sell a product that other people didn't see because they didn't have that cultural experience that you grew up with. Sure, it might have made a difference. But at the end of the day, when you're wealthy, when Shaquille O'Neal buys a laptop for a lady standing behind him at Walmart, did he do that because she was the same race? Or did he do that because he had money, he likes to feel good, and helping people makes him feel good? My point to you is this. I want to see Americans rich. I want to see Americans wealthy. Because if Americans are wealthy, they're able to go ahead and control the government, because they're able to donate how they want to, and that's going to make them feel good, and that's going to make America do well. What we have right now is the opposite of that. What we have is a decline, and it's significant. We have Americans having less money than they've ever had. Did you know that when people were working in the 80s and 90s, a lot of what they were earning is what people in the same field are earning now, except, of course, the dollars are significantly devalued? It upsets me because politics are the number one reason we are not successful. And yet politicians are the number one thing we expect to fix it. You could say it's corruption. Little Joe, I agree. You could say it's corruption. But in order for it to be corruption, we expect basically that the people inside the system are corrupting it. I say the entire system is corrupt. And if it's all corrupt, then that means it's just a bad system. I say at the very beginning, the first building block of politics, politicians, everything, it's broken. Can you guys tell me why we have a white vote? Can you tell me why we have a black vote? It's because political parties convince certain groups of people that they should vote a certain way because their rights will be more important than the other people's rights, right? Classic ideology. Vote Republican, white people will do better. Vote Democrat, black people will do better. We're all doing poorly. How the hell did this happen? So I just wanted to point out to you that we don't want a fourth stimulus. That's the shit. We want the good stuff. We want benefit increases so that people have more money to take care of themselves. And we want more people working and keeping more of that money so they can make more donations by allowing us to go ahead and do an audit on the government to see where money is being spent so that we can redistribute it appropriately to the American people. Now, can any of you guys tell me those dollars, those US dollars, when we pay taxes, did any of you sign up to spend millions and in total billions for your US dollars to be spent on other nations? No. Do we need it to some degree to have bases in these other nations to control the world? Yeah. Are we headed towards another world war? I don't think we are, because these countries can't afford it. They can't afford to have one of those wars. What we're going to be seeing going forward are sneak attacks from these big, out in space, technological wonders that can launch some sort of, disruptive ray to hurt all the electronics in that area. That's the future. It's not soldiers marching on the ground, shooting lead bullets out of their guns. That's not the future. The future is, you've got a satellite and it screws up a bunch of electronic equipment on the ground. What I'd like to point out to you guys is one final thing, and then we'll go and answer questions. The retired are demonized. The disabled are demonized. They're demonized heavily by the Republican Party as a drain on the financial system. The Democrats, who promote that they're going to help them, who get a lot of their votes, don't do what needs to be done to get the things through. Oh, it's just that those two Democrats that are slowing it, they're hurting it all. Guys, that's total BS. If those Democrats who have the House and the Senate and the White House wanted to pass those things, all they'd have to do is whisper benefit increases for the retired, and they would have enough votes without a problem. Whisper benefit increases for SSI. They would have enough votes. It would go through. It would, I'm telling you. But they don't even whisper it. You got these YouTube channels screaming it at the top of their lungs. They get all these views. If they get all these views, right? Then imagine if a politician, a couple of them, a lot of them, whispered it. How many views would they get? How excited would people be? Imagine that. More tax dollars going to the American people. The only people that our tax dollars are really supposed to be going towards. Yes, we have to help immigrants, but the bulk needs to be going towards Americans. All right, guys. I hope you learned something from this. I hope you understand that I've become more and more frustrated with the system because I realize how we can't change much of the voting system because until we get rid of a lot of these isms, right? The racial isms, the financial isms, the marriage isms, until we get rid of how people look at this stuff, they're just going to keep voting the exact same way because each party has carved out their particular groups that they're going to use as marionettes to go ahead and blah, blah, blah. It's sad. It's really sad. All right, guys, I'll go ahead and answer some questions now. I wanted to just explain that. I took way too much time. Here's the phone number to call me for basically me running through questions. I hope you guys are doing well. I do see a good picture. And I think we're going to be going in the right direction for the disabled in the future because I think people like me are going to be very aggressive in doing that. I think there's more people like me as well. All right, guys. So I'm opening up the phone line. Let's see. Okay. So guys, do you have any questions for me at all? Throw them into the bottom. All right. Do you see the future of COLA increase that cannot be used against a person to reduce their assistance with food, housing, or medical, making a COLA a true raise? COLA is never going to be a true raise. COLA is the cost of living adjustment, and whatever they increase that by, that means that's the money that you'll need to buy the same thing the next year. There will never be a COLA increase that is a true raise. There won't. There will never be, because the whole point of a COLA increase is to basically cover the same items that you were able to buy this year, but for next year that will cost more expensive. So no, there will never be a COLA true raise. Let's see. Yes, it does. We need to be more for Americans as humans should care. My fridge is empty too. I stand in line with people telling me to hurry up. It makes them sick. I'm using people are really. Do you have worked 30 years to get the SSI? Do you have to have worked 30 years to get the SSI increase? What SSI increase? There's no increase going on right now. SSI has nothing to do with work history too. SSI is the poverty program where you haven't worked enough or you never worked, and that's why you're on the poverty disability program. SSDI is basically the quarters of coverage program where you worked, paid into the system, and now you're covered by an insurance policy. The politicians are powerless. It is the big companies that are handling all this poverty industry that pays off the politicians. That is correct. They are. Kim Carter, I enjoyed it and learned a lot. Thank you. Thank you. A month. I don't think that if everyone and you all trying to get help goes homeless and stop working. Okay. At Walter, I'm confused. Are we to get the 5.9 increase in January? Yeah, you're going to get the 5.9 increase. You'll get the 5.9% COLA increase. That will basically make you able to pay for the exact same thing you were able to pay for basically this year. It's just you need more money to buy the same things next year. When are you going to teach me how to write a bill? That's actually coming out soon. I'm real excited about that. What I'm worried about, though, and I want to make this very clear, is that the first video is cute and fun and awesome, and then it gets harder. And I think a lot of you guys are going to be with me in the very beginning, and then when we get to like the third or fourth video, I'm going to start losing some of you guys because it's going to get difficult. So I'm doing my best. I even had to re-record one of the middle videos. My whole thing was this. I had a choice. I could either release a lot of the videos for how to write a bill, or I could release the videos basically on the most common 50 child hearing questions that a disabled child would experience when going to a disability hearing. Unfortunately, for the people who want the bill videos, the children won out because, frankly, there's a lot of moms out there who absolutely have no idea going to this hearing what's going to happen, what their child's going to have to run into, all that stuff. So the children won that one. So those videos are going to be released first. But I'm going to slowly start releasing the how to write a bill videos. And that is one of the most things that's why I have spaceconstitution.com, which is becoming.org. That's like, I'm super excited about that. The way to make law, the way to change law to be beneficial for the people, that's my passion. All right, let's see. Next thing. Distant Sun Rising, Monica Sauls, the Duchess. We are the only race of beings in the universe. Human beings are not supposed to starve, kill each other, or let people be homeless. You know, the funny thing about that is, if you look at how our system works, it's all based upon money. If we have money, we can eat, right? Because none of us are going out there and killing animals to put them on a fire right now, unless you're, you know, a very unique individual that actually learned how to live. So most of us need money to be able to eat, to be able to afford our housing, etc. So the dollar basically either makes you a slave or it makes you unlimited in whatever freedom you have and want. And so the truth is, if you want to define wealthy as anything, wealthy people are those who have time to spend their time however they want. If they want to spend it working on something they love, they're wealthy. If they have unlimited time to sit on a yacht, they're wealthy. But people who constantly live by the clock to earn enough money to exist to pay their apartment, not wealthy. I'm sad for everyone struggling. I agree. SSDI is disability. Yeah, SSDI is disability insurance. Yep. I thank you all for you. Thank you. Who would make a better president, independent or progressive? Oh, God. You know, those are labels. They're labels. Who the heck knows? You'd have to look at where they stand on each particular thing. It's all about bullet points and where they stand. And all they do is they give you a bullet point and a paragraph. The only reason we saw them giving us more this time around with the whole, you know, Trump-Biden thing, where we're seeing more than just like, you know, this is because now we're putting it to them to create what their acts are going to look like. But you still will notice if you go to the pre-presidential websites, you'll see that, oh, we're going to come out with this act. But then they didn't have that act created yet, so we couldn't even look at it to friggin' know what the heck it was going to do. If you run for president and you want to change things, you should already have the bill written. That's the bottom line. You should not be allowed to push, oh, I'm going to do magic. I'm a unicorn and here's some dust. No, you better have the bill written when you get in there, and you better have a plan of how to get it passed. I think that that's fair. I think that that should be part of the job, isn't it not? A politician is there to push forward agendas and bills to help the people, right? Right? To create law, to pass law, to examine other laws, right? Isn't that the point of them? Used to be. At one point it was. Let's see. Sorry, I'm skipping a little bit because it keeps skipping down here. Thank you for being a good human. Thank you. I think SSI made a mistake. They gave me a $49 monthly raise. No, that's what it's going to be around for 2022 going into it. They may have reduced some sort of in-kind support maintenance thing on you, and you got a raise because of that, but you can usually call the local field office and get an accounting letter. Also, just go to Google and type in SSA field office zip code finder. It'll come up with the website. Scroll down. There will be a blue button that says by zip code. You put in your zip code, click the thing. It'll give you your field office. Call them and ask for an accounting letter. That'll tell you why you got a $49 increase. Also, the government has the wrong number to calculate inflation. Government says we single-digit inflation. I believe we are in the double digits, or we're past just the basic initial double digits. We're into 20% increases on some things. Everybody's watching gasoline prices. They should be watching food prices. Everybody is not focusing on the right thing. It's not good. Look at the consumer price index, and even that I feel is too low. Okay. Let's see. Why does the military get out of paying in their share of 6.2% of veteran Social Security? That would take too much of it. I'll do a video on that at some point, but that's too much of a thing for right now. I'll be 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 4. I'm not sure what that is. Yes, you can collect disability in any state after being approved. Yes, correct. Any state you can collect disability benefits unless it's a territory-based group, and then usually you can collect SSDI benefits and not SSI benefits. But they're trying to change that because let's call it like it is. These territories are basically states at this point. Let's see. Maybe for Christmas to write a bill. I don't know if I have enough time. Guys, I literally work until 1 a.m., 2 a.m. every night. I was going to do a funny video. I still might do it where basically I show people how to put on makeup to go ahead and get tired eyes. And what I was going to do is I was going to put on makeup that looked like my actual skin color here and then slowly wipe it away and be like, and this is how you go ahead and apply the first layer. And I was just going to take a napkin and brush some off, go to college, get a master's, get a doctorate, go to law school, start a law firm, work there for a long time. And that's how you get literally eyes that look like that at my age. All right, let's see. This is not rocket science. The whole government has to go. It would be nice. I don't think that's going to happen because, if they've been in there for 30, 40, 50 years, they've mastered it. They're better at it than we are. This is not rocket science. Okay, let's see. You said it earlier. The system is broken. Yes, the system is totally broken. You can't collect disability from more than one state at a time. Correct. You can't collect disability from more than one state. Most disability benefits are not stackable unless you're talking about VA disability benefits and Social Security disability insurance benefits, or SSI if it's a real poverty situation. California keeps homeless. The state makes money on the homeless. California's filled with homeless people. It's not a good thing. Let's see. Thank you. Food prices are high. They're super high. They're even higher in Florida. They're really bad right now. Grocery store change price 16 times a month. Yeah, I was looking at this one item. Last year it was $15. Now it's $22. So will America ever switch to the market basket measure as the measure of poverty instead of the current system, which hasn't been updated and is lower than almost every other country in the world? No. If we keep having the politicians we do, they're going to keep it the exact same way it is because then they can control poor people like slaves. Let's see. Food prices are insane. Yes, indeed. Everyone on the island eats rice, and now stores are low on supply, and for one sack, it's nearly $40 max. Rice is crazy expensive. That used to be the cheapest food to buy to eat, and now it's crazy expensive. Rice is going to become like a competitor on a dish. Like if you were to order, like, for example, like a classic, orange chicken dish, and you chose rice, like the rice at some point might even surpass the cost of the chicken, which is weird. People are pawns for government. Well, I see it. Plus, they don't give a damn about us vets. Yeah, vets. Now, vets have it a little bit better than most people because they get to stack disability benefits, but still, vets have gone through quite a bit of hell. We put them through literally most things that most people would not go into. Let's see. None of these politicians have no background in what they are doing. Countries giving our money to their projects and then pay-to-play projects. Yeah. All right, so guys, here's the thing. We're approaching 10 o'clock. If anybody wants to call me, which is surprising that nobody has right now, I'm going to go ahead and answer any questions if you have them. If you don't have them, that's fine. You don't have to call me. I know I went way too long, and I probably missed some phone calls, but if anybody's still wanting to call me, you can. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and pop off the video, and then I actually have to go back to work on this stack of paperwork here. But the future, guys, the only future I see where Americans do well is where we get rid of a lot of these like expectations to only support as a party this group and this group and this group and this group. It would be interesting if we made every party required to address every group. Wouldn't that be interesting? Republicans had to address every group. Democrats had to, talk about every group. That would be interesting. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Knott. We are live on YouTube. Would you like me to go ahead and run hearing questions with you, or would you like me to go ahead and answer a specific question? Oh, thank you, madam. Just remember, I don't use your real name. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Whenever
I see something changed, I go straight to your channel.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I wish I could donate, but I'm in the position of most of everybody else on my side of the screen. And as soon as I can, I will. But thank you for your time and your honesty. Whenever I see anything come on, it's you.
Absolutely.
I go straight to it's like bullshit. straight to your channel.
I appreciate it. And, the thing I'm hoping to change with this channel, because now it has grown to be something, is I'm hoping to change the expectations of people so that they can expect more from the government, so that they can be more demanding, so that they can get more for themselves. I don't like seeing people stuck literally in trailers that are falling apart. I see people all the time in moldy trailers having to live in them because they have no other choice. I see people all the time having to basically, starve themselves to make it to the end of the week. And, let's be honest about this. If the American government was actually for the American people, as the Constitution states, there would not be a housing crisis. There would not be essentially, oh, I lost the person. I guess it hung up for some reason. Anyways, guys, there would not be, sorry for the person on the phone, it just randomly hung up. There would not be a housing crisis. There would not be a poverty crisis. People would be able to get enough on disability benefits to support themselves. We wouldn't have these problems. People would not be miserable. Is there massive abuse still occurring? Sure, absolutely. One of the biggest problems we see is that there is a generational disability problem. One generation keeps putting on, the next generation keeps putting on the next generation. Who's the fault for that? Don't we have one of the best education systems in the world to teach people how to make money, to live a better life? No, we don't. We don't teach people how to make money in this country. We teach people how to be slaves in this country. So I'm giving you education stuff. That's why I'm doing the how to write a bill. That's why I'm showing you how to get these benefits and do better. Anyways, guys, I will catch you a little bit later. I thank you all. I'm sorry for the person who called. The phone just automatically hung up. I don't know what happened there. But have an absolutely wonderful night, guys. And don't be afraid to call in next week. I know I talked way too much this week, but I would like to spend a lot of time working on votetoprotectdisabled.org. Nature Girl, wow. Thank you. Nature Girl donated $19.99. I really appreciate that. As you guys know, and the doggies were just over here sniffing the phone, but I use them basically to buy dog treats for the dogs. It's really amazing. Oh, we do have one more call. Hold on real quick. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Knott. We are live on YouTube. Remember to use a fake name. Would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to run hearing questions?
I was the lady you were talking to that accidentally hung up because I wanted to listen.
Oh, no worries. Well, I tell you what.
I wanted to listen to what you had to say.
Oh,
I can't.
No.
I have brain damage. You can't listen and watch too. So.
Oh, I gotcha. No worries. Well, I tell you what. I want to ask you, what is one thing that you would like to see the United States government do in 2022 that would help you?
Maybe our worth of what we did should be considered better. I worked hard. I raised 3 kids with no child support because I didn't care if I got child support. I didn't want him to be part of my life. Yeah. Anyway, which my grandmother yelled at me a lot about, but I'm a nice Jewish girl. There's no way I should have ended like this. I got hit by a truck and they won. And I have been disabled since 2004, but I still worked for 14 years afterwards.
Wow. Well, I would say this. I think the big problem is that people put a lot of money into the government. They don't see the benefit of a lot of it. And people have become essentially invested elsewhere because they've divested themselves from helping the government anymore. And the government's got a real publicity problem because at this point, people don't trust it. People don't want to invest into it. And at the end of the day, they view it as a bad product. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, is that you want more from what you paid in. Yeah, I agree.
It comes in my life, time with my children.
Yeah.
That I can't get back now.
I agree. I mean, I totally agree. Well, I tell you what, let me grab this next phone call. Have a wonderful night, and we'll keep rolling from here, okay?
Thank you. The show's been terrific.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.
You too.
Thank you. So I'm going to call back that one other person real quick. Let's see. And then we're going to go ahead and call the night. But let's see. Here we go. And boop. And let me make sure this is correct. There it is. Okay, good. And here we go. Let me get the person on the phone. It'll ring. And then we'll go ahead and continue. Last phone call of the evening. And then we should be good. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Knott. Remember to use a fake name. We are live on YouTube. And would you like me to answer a specific question or run hearing questions with you?
Yes, I want to know how we could start up some kind of petition to sort of force the president and all his little minions to do something for Social Security, SSI, DI, and all those veterans, everybody. We need help, and you're the only person I know that can even attempt to get near them people.
So this is what I've been working on. It's only on a piece of paper, and it's basically all the ways to do a recall for every political figure that exists. And there's a bunch of different ways. There can be internal voting where they vote to pull the person out. There can be external voting where they all sign a petition. There can be, the way the president does it, and there's an impeachment and yada, yada. I would like there to be a better, simpler way that's specific to the people being able to vote out individuals who are unable to meet certain realistic goals that they gave as their expectations of achieving certain things while they're in office. So what do we do with corporations and presidents? The presidents come forward with a bullet point list of things that they want to accomplish. If they don't accomplish that, they get fired. We set timelines while they're in. You got to accomplish this by this time, and this by this time, and this by this time. And at every one of those levels, we should have the right to vote whether or not we feel that they are there with the best interests of the American people in heart. I don't think that they should automatically get a pass once they're elected. I don't think they should automatically be able to stay in office the entire time. I think that we should have maybe a halfway, maybe a quarter way every quarter, So 1/4, half, 3/4, I think we should have voting rights at that point to vote somebody out. And I think we should have a special voting right to at any point vote them out. If something happens where they do something that's egregious, I don't want to have to wait for them to step down. I want the right to vote them out. I think voting should be simple and on our phones, or we can go ahead and deliver the information in a secure way. I think in order to actually have secure voting, we need to have something beyond a social security number. It's just a little baby number. That's all it is. It's just a string of numbers. But how easy is that to play with? Very easy. We need to have something digital that is specific to us. It could be a code for, something that is extremely unique. But the point is this: we need a better system so that our vote counts more, so that we can vote these people out more easily, so that we can vote more often, so that we can put them in check with what they promised. And I can tell you this: these people, they do not keep their promises, and we need a system like you're saying to go ahead and remove them. So.
Yeah, exactly. Either to remove them or make them stick to their word. I'm glad that they're helping the children and families. I'm very proud of that part. But at the same time, he wrote in, and so did a lot of his other people, wrote in on the fact of helping Social Security.
Yeah.
And he hasn't done a flipping thing.
It's one of those things where the only way we can hold them accountable is by taking away their job. And I want you to realize this: the people that are running for office today would never run for that job if they had to meet certain criteria throughout the timeline of them being in the office that they're in. The only world where that exists is the corporate world. And we need to hold these politicians to the same standards we do of corporate executives. They got to meet deadlines, they got to achieve things, or else they're out.
But for right this minute, until we can get to that level, if we can ever get there, hopefully.
Well, it'll never get there unless
we say or do.
No, we can write a bill. We can write a bill and pass it at the federal level to require people to have a universal vote at the federal level, and then pass it for each state, where they can vote people out, based on a certain procedure. We can make that, the law of the land. We can make it so that if we're not happy, they get voted out. We can apply the corporate standard to them. We can make it so that we, the people, are the CEOs.
Something's got to change.
Yeah. But you know what's beautiful about this? You know what's beautiful about the prior administration? Everybody got up in arms about it. everybody was excited and angry. There's so much emotion. Nobody ever gave a shit about politics like they do now. Everybody's pissed off or happy, and everybody's swinging all over the place. They never cared about the Constitution until now. The Constitution is the greatest thing the American people have. It's the only reason we have freedom in this country. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't have freedom. That's how basic and simple that is. Think about this. You have the right to marry who you want to marry, right? Is that correct?
I got the right to.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
I just can't.
Okay. All right. Do you have the right to go ahead and have, as many kids as you want? Do you have that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have the right to go ahead and pick the job that you want? Do you have that right?
If I could work, yeah.
Okay, if you go, okay, cool. Do you have the right to hang out with people and join certain groups that you want to join?
Yes.
You would have none of that if you didn't have the Constitution.
America is a wonderful place to be
Yeah.
in the right setting. All these politicians have gained so much power and money, and then you got all these big companies standing in behind them, propping them up.
Well, let's call it like it
The
is.
poor
It's
person just don't have a choice.
There's 5 industries that prop up the politicians. It's always the same thing over and over. And they control everything because they have the money. But you see, the bottom line is, if we get the voting system really strong, where we know our vote counts, then the American people all of a sudden have the capacity to pass things that limit their ability to change how elections actually occur. And there are a lot of people like, oh, you can't change. Look, you can guide anything. You can guide a missile. You can guide a child. You can guide a bug. You can guide a horse. You can guide anything. You can even guide a volcano at this point. So the point is, if we know that things can be guided a certain way, why aren't we as the American people doing a better job at it? And that's because we don't have the power to pull out these politicians, as you've been saying. None of the people running today would run for these same offices if they knew de facto that at the end of the day they could be voted out, because that is not job security. And when you're rich, you want an easy slide and roll through the office. You want a nice day. You want job security. But when you're poor, you're less worried about job security because you're there to get the money. Well, now I'm going to go ahead and catch you a little bit later. I'm going to actually work on this other stuff. You have a wonderful, wonderful night.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we had somebody call in a million times there. Real quick, I'm going to see. Oh, okay. All right. Well, let me see if I can have this person on the phone real quick, and then we'll pop up.